Okay, so just got done watching The Last Stand, and wow, it's not the X-Men Last Stand, that really crappy X-Men sequel. No, I'm talking about Schwarzenegger's Last Stand, and right right away I was. It's not like I went into this movie with a bad attitude. I mean, I did really like it. I mean, it really seems like a big throwback to all those cheesy 80s and 90s Schwarzenegger movies that even to this day are still really entertaining to watch. Like, what is it? Commando, Total Recall, even Predator. Predator was kind of a more darker Schwarzenegger movie, but even still. But The Last Stand, it's very self-aware at times in that not only some of the stuff you saw in the trailer where Schwarzenegger says like I'm old, but okay, the basic premise is that Arnold Schwarzenegger is this sheriff of this little I think New Mexico town, and this Pablo Escobar guy, he escapes from federal custody and starts making a run for the Mexican border. Schwarzenegger takes it upon himself and his deputies, of which there are only about 3, to stop this guy. So it's basically Schwarzenegger and his handful of guys against Pablo Escobar's private army. That's not his real name. He's not the Pablo Escobar, but they compare him to him at one point in the movie. Whatever. So, it's simple. But who says simple is such a bad thing? I mean, really, when was the last time you saw a very simple action movie like this? I mean, all the rest of them nowadays are really trying to be not really overcomplicated, but they're lacing their plot lines with all these conspiracy theories and secret plans and whatever. And even the really enjoyable ones like Dread, certain parts of that seem kind of unnecessary, like the whole mutant thing. But The Last Stand thankfully keeps it simple, in that it's really nothing more and nothing less than the citizens of this town, of this little desert place, throwing down against this Mexican drug lord and his private army, who one of his lieutenants is Peter Stormare. I don't know. I mean, why couldn't Peter Stormare be the real bad guy? I mean, he's more memorable than whoever they got to play the Pablo Escobar guy. But anyway, where to start? Okay, first of all, the acting is, for the most part, pretty solid. I mean, Schwarzenegger, he's not really over the top in this one. He's playing it pretty straight, which I think adds to the film. Which, I mean, there's not really any over the top deliveries like in Total Recall, or even Jingle All the Way. Terrible film, by the way, but I digress. He's playing it pretty serious. He's not really capable of giving a serious performance as much as, say, I don't know, someone less Schwarzenegger-y, someone who's been made into less of a joke, like Viggo Mortensen or Michael Fassbender. I mean, Schwarzenegger's doing the best he can, really. Which ain't much, but it's a welcome change of pace, especially coming from The Expendables, which was a little too in your face. I did like the second Expendables movie, not the first one so much. Who else? Jamie Alexander plays one of his deputies, and she's pretty solid. I mean, she's really the only two things I've seen her in are Kyle XY and Thor. But she really has this kind of I don't want to say presence, but she's more capable in handling herself in an action movie than I think a lot of other actresses her age. Like I'm totally blanking on her name, but you know what I mean. Where there are certain actresses where you can't envision them in an action movie. I mean, you don't buy it. But Jamie Alexander really has this kind of a hardball exterior that really makes her appealing in a lot of ways. Not just physically, but she really has this kind of inner strength that you don't really see a lot nowadays. And when a female is put in an action movie, I mean, a lot of the times they're just kind of tagging along and saying a funny line every now and then. But it's not really often that you come across or at least I come across a female that's really that believable in the action role. Luis Guzman plays another one of his deputies, and he doesn't embarrass himself like in Journey to the Mysterious Island. I mean, he's not that embarrassing. And he does get in a funny line every now and then, because that one shot you see in the trailer where they're loading up all these weapons, and he just picks up this crusader sword, and he's like, "You'll never know." So that was funny, although it never comes into play, at least not that I remember. Anyway, but Peter Stormare is just kind of standard. I mean, for a lot of his movies nowadays, he's not really allowed to play anything more than kind of a one-dimensional or two-dimensional character. Like in Lockout or Hansel and Gretel, terrible movies like that, where he's just kind of this thug. And that's pretty much the case here, unfortunately, where he's not allowed to do anything. He's not really allowed to stretch his acting chops, as it were. I mean, which is a real shame. I mean, I like Peter Stormare. I mean, he really has this kind of creepy vibe, which, now that I think of it, maybe that's the reason they cast him as a thug most of the time. But he's capable of more, or at least I think so. But anyway, he does get plenty of good moments. He shoots Harry Dean Stanton, or one of his guys shoots Harry Dean Stanton. And I was actually shocked seeing Harry Dean Stanton in this, because Harry Dean Stanton is old as dirt. I mean, he's been around longer than dirt. And I'm not saying that like it's a derogatory thing, but he was in... You'd think he would retire by now, honestly, because he's... I mean, I was surprised to see him in the Avengers. I mean, really. Especially... I mean, I'm especially surprised that he's taking movies that normally an actor of his generation wouldn't do. I mean, it's kind of like when I heard Robert Redford was going to be in Captain America 2. I'm like, really? Alright. Or, I guess it was kind of the same reaction when Glenn Ford was in the original Superman. Because you wouldn't really envision Glenn Ford being in a comic book movie. Then again, that was really the first big comic book movie with a budget. What else? The main guy, the main Mexican criminal guy. Honestly, he's very forgettable. I mean, I don't know what they hope to accomplish with him, but he spends most of the movie kind of sidelined. He spends most of the movie driving a getaway car to the Mexican border with Genesis Rodriguez in tow. Her character was useless too. I mean, her and the the criminal guy, the main the main crime lord guy, the Pablo Escobar guy, they're just kind of there. I mean, they're not only are their performances kind of bland and forgettable, but they aren't really given anything to do in the grand scheme of things. I mean, really, they only get there near the end of the movie, and it really never amounts to anything more than Schwarzenegger going, another guy I have to kill. But he doesn't kill him, honestly. But Forrest Whitaker is in the movie, and he's all right, although he's not aging well. I mean, he plays basically that kind of police, that kind of gruff law enforcement officer that you see in a lot of movies nowadays, where he doesn't really trust anyone. He's kind of a jerk to those under him. But he's not too bad. I mean, he certainly doesn't embarrass himself here nearly as much as when he was in Battlefield Earth. Although many people probably don't remember he was in Battlefield Earth because he was acting opposite John Travolta as Turl. But the action scenes in this movie are actually really good and really well shot. I mean, when you see a car explode, it really looks like it's exploding, and the camera, there's no shaky cam in this. I mean, the camera pulls back enough so that you can see the action very clearly. And honestly, this has some of the best vehicular stunts I've seen since Mad Max. I mean, there's, and I think that's really a testament to the director, who I can't remember his name, but as an action director, he shows potential. I mean, there's this one scene where Schwarzenegger drives a bus into the enemy vehicles, and not only the vehicle stunts that are well shot, but also the gunfights and the violence. There's a lot of violence in this movie. I mean, when someone gets shot, it's kind of like Django level violence, where wherever they got shot, they kind of explode like a watermelon. It's not quite to the cartoonish extent of Django Unchained, but you kind of catch my drift, where it's kind of purposely overdone in a sense. What else? I mean, it was a really fun movie. It had a lot of cute moments. It had a lot of funny lines. It wasn't anything special, don't get me wrong. I mean, it basically accomplished what it set out to do. I mean, if you're not looking for anything deeper than Schwarzenegger throwing down, then you will get your money's worth. I mean, I got it at Redbox, and I was extremely satisfied with the end result. Not really much else I have to say about it, other than a fun Schwarzenegger movie, and I'm extremely disappointed that it didn't make that much of a dent at the box office, because it deserves it. It deserves it a lot more than the other movies in January. Jeez, like, movie 40. Oh. Yeah, that's about it. So, Last Stand. See it at Redbox, or whenever it comes to Netflix or on demand. It's a really fun movie. Well shot.